why don't we just start on what Labor was claiming there? This support available for businesses, Labor says there could be a loophole, the businesses could take the money and then sack staff. You've been looking into this. Is that a possibility?
Well, good afternoon, Tom. Look, I think, we're still all sifting through the detail on this exercise. I think the package has been put out in good faith. I think the modus operandi behind the support is, in fact, to make sure that, people do retain their jobs. Certainly within the tourism sector, we're desperately keen to retain our skilled people.
So talk us through your reaction to this package that has been announced and what it will mean for tourism businesses.
Well, look, I think the important thing here is that we've now got some certainty about what will apply when these sorts of lockdowns happen around the country. And Tom, I'm sure you've heard us bang on before on any number of occasions about the fact that certainty is what everybody needs. In terms of the assistance itself, I think the New South Wales government in particular has listened to industry, and I know they pushed very strongly for there to be some sort of JobKeeper style support, because they know that that's one of the things that industry most needs. I think the proof of this pudding will be in the next week or so as people start applying for it and actually sift through the detail. I think it's recognition, though, that with these lockdowns now as they stand with the Delta virus, etc., the Delta version of the virus, there is going to need to be some ongoing support. I do think, though, that there is probably going to need to be greater consideration, so you'd expect me to say, in the tourism space, because essentially at this point in time, for those internationally focused businesses, they're just in lockdown permanently, essentially.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a moment. Just finally on this, you mentioned certainty. So certainty for the worker. What's your view? Is there an element that they could still be sacked under this? And what would be your message to business contemplating?
Look, that's not my understanding of the reason for the development of this particular kind of scheme. I suppose this is going to be a detail for review over the next few days as people come to grips with the details within the scheme. I think it's premature to suggest that there'll be particular job loss outcomes beyond those that were always going to happen the moment JobKeeper was withdrawn at the end of March.
How are tourism businesses doing right now? You mentioned the internationally focused ones. Are there more of them shut than we realise? Are they on the precipice, given the 4-point plan, and no one thinks borders will be open within the next year, really, I don't think?
Well, I certainly hope you're wrong, Tom. We wouldn't argue with health advice. We're never going to argue with the health advice, but the issue is we'd certainly hope that there's going to be international borders open long before then. I think the biggest problem at the moment for the tourism industry is the overall loss of confidence. Even in those places where we were seeing green shoots and increased activity and Australians focusing on, actually spending some money to travel here in Australia and discover their own country. When you get lockdown situations like this, it actually damages traveller confidence across the whole country. So what you will see over this school holiday period, normally the period, the first 2 weeks there, that was the school holidays, we would have seen just over $10 billion in tourism consumption across the country. There will have been at least $6 billion lost off the top of that. Now, of course, we've got the complication of the lockdown and what that will do to confidence. At this point in time, industry here in New South Wales, tourism industry, is losing $150 million a day.
So when we think of this time of year and the school holidays and the lockdown that's happened in Sydney, has this been the final nail in the coffin? If you think of operators in the NT in North Queensland, usually they have a reliance on international tourists anyway, but they would get a decent chunk of Sydney business. Is that the fear? Are you getting that feedback? Are there some that
we definitely
now?
Yes,
too much?
Definitely. Because remember, this is the third school holidays in a row. There's some unholy confluence between a problem with the virus and the school holidays. So we've had 3 sets of school holidays that have been stymied for one reason or another relating to lockdowns and the virus. Now, that means you've really got to worry about the September school holidays now. Is it 3 strikes and you're out? Are people tired of booking and not being able to travel? So we have some confidence rebuilding issues. But yes, I think there are many businesses for whom this period, the school holiday failure and then the lockdown, will now run up the white flag. That will be it.
Yeah, it's sad to hear, isn't it? For some people, a lifetime of trying to work on this. It's not just those remote locations, cities. There are still tourism businesses there. They're decimated right now.
Huge.
Sydney and Melbourne in particular.
Huge impact in the cities for a whole lot of reasons. Number one, that's where the bulk of international travellers go, so that's not happening. Lockdowns, loss of confidence on going anywhere, so that's not happening. Business travel, of course, almost non-existent now because for many companies, they're not prepared to take the risk of their people travelling and getting sick. So there's, pretty much a triple whammy for the tourism industry at the moment. And then combine that with lockdowns, no border certainty, not enough vaccination and closed international borders, and it's looking a bit grim.
It is, unfortunately. Margy, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.